Shake, stir, garnish. It looks like a cocktail, it's priced like a cocktail. The only thing is, these aren't cocktails. They're alcohol-free drinks. And they're earning a place on bar menus across the US. A lot of people are trying to drink less. 52% of US consumers said they're trying to lower their alcohol intake. And when looking at just millennials, that percentage rises to 66%. But low and no alcohol products only make up 0.5% of the total US beverage market, leaving significant room for growth. In US stores, non-alcoholic beverage sales have grown $1.1 billion in the last year alone. With the millennial-driven rise of sober influencers and trend-setting challenges like Dry January, it's no surprise that alcohol-free cocktails are vying for a permanent spot on the bar scene. Is the sober curious movement here to stay?
I drink whenever I want to. I've just started liking not drinking better than drinking. So I call it a drink optional mindset.
Lorelei Bandrovschi is the owner of Listen Bar, an alcohol-free pop-up open one night every month in New York City.
I came up with the concept when I took a month off of drinking, and I surprised myself with how much I liked it. And then I started taking a month off every year and really wanting there to be spaces that cater to that experience.
And Lorelei's customers are responding.
We are running a very successful crowdfunding campaign for our permanent space. It is a campaign that's raised over $40,000 from over 500 people. I really see that as a huge indicator of how people are not only excited for a space like us to exist, but they're ready to put in money to make it happen.
Lorelei's draw to sobriety didn't come out of nowhere. For over a decade, community spaces have emerged online. Take Dry January, or as some people call it, Drynuary, a month of no drinking.
I believe we started doing Drynuary about 13 years ago.
John Orr is sort of a Dry January icon, having popularized the trend online after writing about his experience in the early 2000s.
In the first years that we did this, there was a little bit of a nice social media community aspect of it that I enjoyed. 13 years ago, the millennial aspect of it was maybe a little bit less pronounced, and maybe, millennials and maybe even Gen Z are more drawn to sort of healthy lifestyle choices that are sustainable.
John is onto something. 50% of millennials who gave up drinking said they did it for health reasons, and 28% said they were trying to lose weight. And taking a dry month has become so popular, there's even a Sober September challenge now. There are a number of reasons both older and younger generations are stepping away from the liquor cabinet. Regina DeLay and her business partner Sam Thonis opened Getaway Bar in April of 2019. And their catalyst for opening a booze-free bar hit close to home.
So Getaway came originally from an idea that Sam had. His brother is in recovery and has been for a few years now. When he first got sober, they kind of didn't have a place to hang out, especially at night. And then as he kind of thought more about it, it became clear that this was a place that could exist and would appeal to a lot of people.
Getaway is the first non-alcoholic brick-and-mortar bar in New York City, so people are still getting used to the concept.
Traditionally, a bar has had alcohol, but once you kind of explain that it's really about the social space and about having a place to catch up with your friends, then Getaway starts to make a lot more sense.
And the space appeals to a range of non-drinkers.
We do have people who are completely sober, but in addition to that, we have people who are just looking for a night out and don't want to be hungover the next day, or people who are doing a dry month or are pregnant or something like that. And then we also have a lot of people who are just generally non-drinkers.
But does a non-alcoholic cocktail trigger your brain the same way an alcoholic beverage does?
I think a person can get a buzz by drinking a mocktail in a non-alcoholic bar. So alcohol has many effects on the brain. Information related to drinking is stored in many ways like any other memory, right? So when you drink alcohol, there's a set of tastes, there's a whole context, where you're drinking, who are the people that you're surrounded by, what you're doing at the time. in addition to the internal subjective feelings that alcohol is causing. The cues that are associated with drinking, even in the absence of drinking alcohol, can evoke that memory. So it can create almost like a placebo effect, where people feel like they're drinking even though they are not.
While the National Survey on Drug Use and Health shows that 86.4% of U.S. adults have consumed alcohol, there's been a significant decrease in the prevalence of high school drinking. And businesses are paying attention. Non-alcoholic bars and pop-ups are opening doors across the U.S., with some embarking on national tours to spread the word. Even major beer companies are getting in on the action. No and low alcohol beer is among the top 5 fastest growing beers in the US. Heineken is even promoting its line of alcohol-free beers with a slew of ads. But drinking healthy isn't cheap. The drinks at alcohol-free bars in New York City can cost upwards of $16. Is it worth it?
I think the drinks themselves aren't too expensive. I think the nuances and the different flavors that you get from the drinks are kind of surprising. So that wow factor of drinking something and thinking that there's alcohol in it and having that replicated is kind of a cool experience.
I think the price point is totally fair, and the drinks were super tasty, creative. The names were super fun.
It'd have to be super special or something. There have to be some serious benefit to it. Like, I'd be really hard pressed to find $13 worth of value in a mocktail when I could have a seltzer.
One negative thing we hear is price. They're the same price as our alcoholic cocktails.
This is Bobby Murphy, a bartender and beverage director at Existing Conditions in New York City.
We opened July 7th, 2018, and from day one, we've always had non-alcoholic cocktails.
While taking a full dive into a trend-driven market has its risks, Bobby thinks it's time for cocktail bars to prioritize a non-alcoholic menu.
The shift has been around for a long time, not necessarily in bars, but restaurants for the past 10 years. If you don't have a non-alcoholic pairing at a higher level bar, you probably will turn away customers.
And the coexistence of alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks is Bobby's top priority.
Mocktails are something we don't say. We don't want to make a mock of an alcoholic drink. We want to make something that is like an alcoholic drink.
While some identify sober curious as a trend, alcohol addiction is a serious problem that leads to nearly 90,000 deaths per year in the US alone. And non-alcoholic bars can provide support for those in the thick of recovery.
Non-alcoholic bars sound like a decent idea. Again, it could be a double-edged sword. It could help people to stop drinking. It could potentially promote people to resume drinking. So I would hope that a non-alcoholic bar, if their intention is to help people stop drinking, might include phone numbers, websites, resources, pamphlets, etc. for people to be able to get help.
As more people open alcohol-free spaces, you can't help but wonder where this movement is headed.
But what if your friends don't want to drink really that night and they just want to hang out and have that bar vibe still? And so I think that there's a spot for this, and I really look forward to seeing it grow.
I have a few friends who are trying to cut back on alcohol content, and I think with our friend group, we're definitely accepting of that and not trying to pressure them. But it is definitely a challenge when there's not a lot of spaces for people to go and not have a drink.
More and more people, especially millennials, are giving up drinking, and I think it's part of us choosing to identify much more specifically and not kind of fall into these broad categories. So especially when you're thinking about wellness and what you put into your body and how you want to feel the next day, we've been told that alcohol has to be at the heart of your social life, and a lot of us are rejecting that.